Well, hi. It is Friday, October 18th, 2024, and it's time for another morning coffee. I'm Tom Stewart, and we have back another special co-host this morning, Travis Waldstein from Air Heating and Air Conditioning and Waldstein Plumbing. And, well, I don't see a beer with you today, so I think we're okay. This morning's coffee cup, this is, and we've talked about it, that I collect these things, and it's not an unending supply of coffee cups that I have, but this one I actually found.
Really? You found it?
I found it, and
really,
this was back when I still had a house up on Franklin Avenue, and there was a big hill behind the house, and this had just washed down the hill. And how about this? It is a Campbell's.
Oh no shit! No kidding! Wow. Somebody probably threw it in your car or something. You're like, oh,
I don't know.
Yeah,
there's no way to do it because the hill went straight up back there. And I think I talked to you about it before, that I had found some old bottles that were buried up at the top of that hill. And these were old whiskey bottles that were just kind of stacked, the half pint flask that, from the old 1920s version. So found a bunch of those up there, and I still have a few of them. So wanted to have you on morning coffee this morning because it is Friday, and I was singing praises to Kirk Ferentz getting that 200th win. And in deciding fashion, well, there's a game coming up tomorrow as the Hawkeyes are on the road, and we're going to get a Hawkeye preview from none other than Mr. Waldstein. And I'm assuming that you're not about to get in your truck and drive to East Lansing.
I had a couple offers, but I got family in town. I'm just hoping to be done with formal family functions by 6:30 tomorrow night. So.
Well, you might be done. It doesn't matter if they're done or not. You're done, right?
Oh, the game will be on. I can promise you that. So I'm gonna have a bunch of Cyclones in my house. So they're gonna be like, "What's?" Yeah, but it is what it. Hey, it is what it is.
So they're either engineers or veterinarians.
Mostly engineers, chew.
Iowa State is a great engineering school, and they're also they have a really strong veterinary program there. So Iowa taking on Michigan State, and what we saw against Washington, I thought was probably the most complete game I've seen out of the Hawkeyes in a long time.
Oh, no doubt.
Probably years.
If you go to Pro Football Focus, for those of you who do the NFL stats, Iowa across the board had the highest ranking of any college offensive line in the country last week. And Jennings Ducker, the right tackle, he's one that sold in the hay bale and tossed twice. This kid is just a friggin' beast. And if you watch some of the videos that they did after the game on Saturday, kind of broke down his performance. They said it's probably the best performance. He's making himself a lot of money with his play this year, and he's got another year. He'll play another year for sure with where he's at. So it starts there, and Iowa fans been waiting for this for probably 3 years, and man, they've finally got an offensive line. Are they perfect? But no, but these kids have finally grown up, and they look like men on the offensive line, and they're playing like beasts. So I'll take that any day. So
well, we've got a local connection to that offensive line, and when I was watching the game on Saturday, they were singing some praises to Logan Jones.
Yep. Hey, Logan Jones. The funny story about Logan Jones. My son Hayden graduated in 2016 from Lewis Central. And they had this 8th grader. They kept talking about him. It's like, who is this kid? And I remember telling his uncle, says, "Oh, he's going to be the next running back at Lewis Central," and whatever. And Jim Duggan got a hold of him and says, "If you want to play as a freshman, you're going to be playing the offensive line." And sure as life, he's starting as a center as a freshman. So, right. And then they moved him out to tackle and put in the defense. And everyone thought, oh, he's going to go to Iowa and play defense. And Kirk said, "Yeah, I think you're a center." So. I don't know Logan real well. I should know his mom probably better than him, but the stories about him in the weight room at Lewis Central at Iowa, good kid. He was on, if you followed the Talking Hawks with the Vandenbergs, he was on 2 weeks ago. Fantastic interview. If you get a chance to go out and listen to it. His story's good. He sounds like he's got a girlfriend. I think he's actually engaged, if I remember right, but good kid, local kid. It's going to be interesting to see if he's playing on Sunday. I think he's going to have an opportunity. But when you get to that level, you're playing. Everybody's good at that
Yeah,
level. So,
yeah,
but I think he's definitely going to get his opportunity. There ain't no doubt about it.
yeah. And it's kind of fun when you can see the local guys that we saw back in high school going on to the next level, and especially when they're having the kind of success
Mm-hmm.
that he is now having playing D1 football for the University of Iowa. So, with this Michigan State game, to me, these are the games that worry me
Well,
because Iowa should win,
mm-hmm.
but we'd said that year in and year out about Purdue, and how many times did that game turn into more than it should have been?
Well, here's the thing I remember. A couple of things about Michigan State. One was just playing their favor. I believe it's John L. Smith. I believe is how he goes. Coached at Oregon State last year. So this is a whole new coaching staff. So if you want to look back at history, you probably need to spend more time watching them last year at Oregon State to kind of get an idea what kind of offense. And he was pretty successful at Oregon State. He beat Oregon a couple times. Good coach, X's and O's guy. But I'm on their schedule here right now. They've already played Oregon and Ohio State back to back weeks. They lost 38-7 to Ohio State. And then a week later, they went out to Oregon and lost 31-10. And that was their last ball game 2 weeks ago. So,
Right.
so they've had 2 weeks to prepare. They've had 2 weeks to heal up, 2 weeks to get better. I'm hoping they look like Iowa did when Iowa came off their bye week, because that means it's a very good day for us. So, but you look at Michigan State, and in a lot of ways they mirror Iowa. There's years they could be up close to the top, and then there's years where they're just average. And they've been that way. Boy, you go back to the George Perlis days in the '80s, and when they're playing Iowa, I mean, every once in a while you're going to blow up, but most of the time it's going to be a one touchdown game, and that's what I expect up in East Lansing.
Yeah, I think the last blowout with that game I remember, and I think it was at East Lansing, was 2010. I think
Yeah,
that was the year that
yeah,
Iowa put up like something like 5 touchdowns by halftime.
yeah. You're like, oh, wait a minute, this is Iowa football.
Yeah,
At that time, Iowa actually still scored. It's like,
right.
holy cow. So, but no, yeah. So, wait, hey, someone's breaking in. It's early in the morning for that. You can hear the sirens going off. Holy cow.
Yeah,
Um,
we're not exactly 100% soundproof in the basement.
well, that's all right. It's better than the crickets going off at my place.
Well, that's true. The last
Yeah,
time we recorded one, and it was like, yeah, Cecil the cricket was just, I think you called him the love cricket.
yeah, the love
And
cricket. He's
yeah,
something. So,
he was making that loud
uh,
noise.
so, but going back to this game, I was been on the road here. They went to Minneapolis. They won. They went to Ohio State, and I think the score at Ohio State. The more you look back at that game, I don't think it's as much of a the score looked ugly, but they played well in the first half. I mean, I was not going to be intimidated by Michigan State. I think their defense looked a lot better. They're now doing what, a 4-1-6 is what they're calling it. With they have one linebacker and they got basically six defensive ends, and that's how they came, but kind of took over the game versus Washington. So different looks. So so defense will be fine. And I'm really curious every week to see. Oh, I thought I saw something flying at me as a fly. Um, it's really curious to see what Tim Lester with Iowa. I mean, they've been talking about the passing game, and is it coming? Is McNamara going to figure out? I don't think McNamara is going to be freaking John Elway. He's not going to be Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he might be Aaron Boone. I don't know.
Like a
But
baseball player.
yeah, exactly. So, but I do think he's not. I mean, he turned the ball over versus Ohio State in a terrible third quarter, but beyond that, he has not turned the ball over for the most part. Well, he did against Iowa State. When he's turned the ball over, Iowa's lost. If he doesn't turn the ball over, Iowa wins. And he didn't have great statistics, but by God, he made some good plays in that game versus Washington. And so maybe it's like they said it'd take 2 years to get this offense figured out before the players knew everything. It was fully implemented, whatever. And I think you're seeing signs of we're opening up, we're running different patterns, we're the blocking schemes. talks about the motion, whether they're in 11 or 12 or 21 set, whatever their, back end setup is. And they are, I think it's getting better. No one's going to accuse them of being Ohio State and Oregon, but I'm actually pretty excited. If they play like they did last week, they should win every game on their schedule. But as we know, this is college football, and this would be the week they stub their toe. And next week, I'll be fuming mad. So,
Well, sitting and watching these games, I have this thing that I keep going back to. Is every time the ball's handed off, I'm sitting on the couch and I'm going, "Come on, Caleb! Come on, Caleb!"
uh,
And he's coming through. I mean, that young man is his future is very, very bright.
well, they talk about it right now. He's ninth, and if the Heisman vote today, he's like ninth is what they got him in the Heisman voting, and then he's number two in the country rushing. And the one kid's better is kid from Boise State, and he had 100 almost 200 yards versus Oregon. So, and that's the favorite right now. But what Caleb Johnson doing against Big Ten competition, and he got his yards against Ohio State. They just loaded the box. And I think that's the thing with Iowa's progression is they have to continue to get the offense better. I think as it does, I think it'll open that up even more. Iowa's got, they got Moulton, they got Jazz Patterson, who are nice changeup guys to give them a little bit of a break. And even they're making plays. And so that's why I said the offensive line, I think, is the key. And, and they're deep enough in the offensive line that they're going to have opportunities, I think, to get better. And I'm not promising they're going to be the best offensive line in the country, but I don't think you're going to see the drop off again that we've seen the last 3 years. I really think what you've seen the last 3 years is kind of the end of the Tim Polasek. They missed a lot of recruits. A lot of guys didn't pan out. And so you had to play young kids. There wasn't 2 or 3 veterans with a couple young guys mixed in. It's been kids growing up on that offensive line. And, Kirk said it, no one believes it, but this year it's kind of like, okay, we see what you're talking about now. But it takes time,
Well, I think that what I saw in Washington, in the Washington game that was so encouraging, was you can get demoralized after a showing that happened in Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Ohio State's a very, very good football team, but
Mm-hmm.
to come back and they stepped on the field with a ton of confidence. You could see it right from the beginning
Mm-hmm.
that they believed that they were there to win that game, and they played like it all the way through. And you know as well as anybody that the mental side of this is as important, if sometimes not more important, than the physical skill.
Oh, absolutely. No, it is. Listen, it's 20% physical. It's 80% mental. And if you believe you're the better team and you believe you're going to win, and you believe you got the players to do it, yeah. And Iowa's got players. There ain't no question about it. So they've got good coaching. Special teams. I mean, hell, let's talk about something for. I mean, Reese Dakin or Dykin or whatever the new Aussie kicker. Holy cow! He had 2 punts last week. It looked like Torrey Taylor. So I think he figured some stuff out. Brendan Weegan, I believe is what it is from the number 21. I mean, he was good on special teams, deemed to run one back, and then he had a couple plays on offense too. Running, receiving the football. So I mean, they're getting their playmakers in, and everybody's worried about. Well, we lost to Brown. The Caleb Brown. They lost him, and they lost Williams, which that's too bad. I like LaShawn Williams, but I understand why he left. Caleb Brown, he left. I was, oh my God. They had the next play stepped up, and I mean, that number 7, I can't remember his name yet, that caught the touchdown for him. I mean, it's like, well, where has this kid been hiding at? It's like, well, obviously he's been doing something right.
I think that was his first catch. That was his first catch as a Hawkeye.
Well, I think I think it was McNamara's first touchdown versus a Division One opponent at this time in Iowa. I mean, so we broke the dam, so maybe we're on to something now. So he's up to 1 touchdown and 4 interceptions, whatever he's got on the year.
Who is that guy, that the Iowa guy that's on the Pat McAfee show?
Oh,
that he was just ripping McNamara, just horrible after that Ohio State game. He was just ripping him to shreds.
Well, he
And
should have. I agree with him.
yeah,
It was
and
horrible.
but he played solid. I
Yeah.
thought he played solid. There wasn't anything spectacular about it,
Hmm.
but I mean, there was a that pass to you were talking about first catch of his career as a Hawkeye. That was a good pass.
Oh,
He,
absolutely. Great
he
pass.
dumped it. He dumped it down into looked like coverage. It looked like a kind of a zone coverage,
Yeah.
and he just kind of dumped it right down into him and hit him in stride, so he didn't have to break and slow down.
Vanders, he had a couple good catches. The biggest thing they haven't got Lachey is involved in the offense, but he's blocking well. He's doing a lot of stuff down. He's just, I don't know if McNamara just doesn't look for him or if he's like a second or third read. I would think he'd be his safety blanket, but maybe after busting that touchdown deal, maybe we're going to figure this out finally. This might be the week where, McNamara throws for 300 yards and three touchdowns and be like, well, where the hell's this been at? So, no, yeah, it's really interesting to see where they're at. I mean, listen, I mean, they're 4-2. I mean, I, I was listening. Of course, I listen to a lot of Des Moines sports talk radio because I don't like to hear about that team in Lincoln. Sorry, is what it is. Um, they're talking about Iowa. Listen, Iowa State's 6-0 right now. They deserve where they're at. They beat Iowa. However, whatever you want to call it, it is what it is. And I said, listen, I said for the season, Iowa State could easily win the Big 12 title. And it looks like right now they might be the front runner to win the Big 12. As they continue to win and Iowa continues to get better, I mean, that loss still stings, but if they're both 10-2 or 11-1 at the end of the year, that loss is going to sting a whole lot less if you realize, man, those were two pretty good teams on the football field. I don't think at the time we realized how good they were. So,
well, and I think Ohio State, you know how it is that anytime somebody loses, then it's just the end of the world, and they think that the team's just going to fall apart. That game against Oregon with Ohio State, yeah, Oregon came out on top, but it wasn't like they blew them off the field.
I'm telling you, if that game's in Columbus, I think it's a 21-foot ball game. Ohio State. I mean, Oregon had everything going for it that night. Ohio State made some mistakes. I'm not saying Ohio State or Oregon's not good, and I really didn't have a dog on the fight. I was like, well, I want to see Ohio State get around the field. It's like, you know what? Actually, if they're both in the college football playoff and playing for it all, I could see them playing at least once, if not for the Big Ten and for the national title. I think both them teams are that good. And listen, I'm not sure about the SEC this year.
No,
You
it's
know,
down. It's
yeah,
down. I mean, when you see, Alabama beating Georgia and then Alabama losing to Vanderbilt and then barely
well,
hanging on the week after that. I mean, it
they
was,
they were a 2-point conversion from going to overtime with South
yeah.
Carolina at home. And so you take that. I mean, listen, there's good teams in the SEC, and I expect Georgia to be in the hunt for it. I'm not sure about Alabama. Alabama's kind of shown some kinks in the armor, and they might get them figured out. It's new coach, new system, new whatever. But I think the Big Ten is a year. And what he's talking about right now? Penn State.
Yeah.
Penn State's 6-0 right now, and Penn State's got Ohio State in front of their schedule. I think they play Michigan in 2 weeks. Penn State could easily be the third team in the Big Ten, and I think they probably will be, as long as they don't get the doors blown off of them by Ohio State. But they got a lot going for them too, as far as the Big Ten. So going back to Iowa for a second, I didn't catch this in the stadium. I caught on say, did you hear about the fan that got hit in the face by the kickoff?
I did not know.
Oh, you got to go on to Twitter and see this. Pat Anger made a fun of the fan.
Oh, wait a minute. I did see that. Yeah, because Pat Anger was making. I, it wasn't exactly his best moment.
Oh yeah, some guys like at the back of the end zone, first row, great seats. I've sat there one time. That's a pretty good vantage point of the field. And I don't know if he tries to catch that ball. He's like coming really fast. It just biffed him square in the head. I mean, he looked like Pam Oliver when Jared Goff, I think, threw a hitter in the face a couple weeks ago. It's like biff. It's like, wow. But no, I mean, he talked about it. He's like, yep. Here this morning, they did an interview with him to make sure he was okay at the sidelines. Some guy from Des Moines there watching the game, and he's like, Yep, just part of having fun in Kinnick. It's like, so if you want to see someone get hit in the face with a football and be happy about it afterwards, just go on to Twitter. So or
Well,
X or whatever we're calling it now. So
I can't. I can't have a conversation about college football with you. We got to talk about the team in Lincoln, and
oh, I
I know
know.
that you don't want to think about them, but they are 5-1 now. That was the first half of their schedule was much easier. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
and they'll admit that, and they're fine. But they did what they had to do, and they're an overtime win away from being undefeated at this point,
yeah,
or overtime
no,
loss. So, but now things get a little different,
well,
and they're going up against some good teams, and one of them is happening tomorrow with Indiana because, and who saw this coming?
oh,
That the Indiana Hoosiers are playing some of the best football in the Big Ten.
oh, I know.
It's amazing to me how quickly that team has turned things around.
Well, yeah, I'm just pulling up Nebraska's schedule right now. My computer will probably implode now that I did this, but
It's kind of
um,
leaking red out through the fan vents.
yeah. Well, let's see. So next, okay, so here's their schedule. October 19th, they go to Indiana.
Right.
They go to Ohio State.
Hmm.
They get Nebraska or UCLA at home. Then they turn
Okay.
around and go to USC, and then they get Wisconsin at home, and then they come to Iowa at the end of the year. There's the one game I would say they're gonna win for sure on that schedule is UCLA. I
That
mean,
would that would be expected that they'd win the UCLA game. To me, I think that there's three winnable games there for Nebraska,
and Iowa's
and
one of them.
and
Frankly,
Iowa's one of them.
I mean, if we're being
That's not
honest about it,
yeah, that's not a given, and we don't know how these teams are still going to be playing because Nebraska is pretty one dimensional. If they lose their quarterback,
mm-hmm.
they're in a lot of trouble. So, and I'm not wishing that on anybody. We want to see everybody stay healthy, but and I think Wisconsin is the other winnable game.
Yeah, well, it depends which Wisconsin is the Wisconsin team that beat Rutgers at Rutgers 49-7, or is it the one that got manhandled by Illinois or who else? They played somebody else and just looked like garbage. So I think Wisconsin's that team. They're just like, ooh,
Mm-hmm.
it's just like riding a roller coaster. Indiana, legit, but they haven't been there. Nebraska hasn't been there for a while. I mean, that's probably going to be a hell of a football game if you want to know the truth. If you don't root for either team or you don't root against either team, so maybe I should say, okay, I'm not going to root against them, but I'm sure Zach ain't going to root for them. So
Well, and listen, Nebraska has a ton to play for. Probably the most
oh
meaningful game they have had in a lot of years this time of the year
yeah, Nebraska.
because that makes them bowl eligible if they beat Indiana.
You know how much bowl money the Nebraska saved up the last 8 years. I mean, there's white T-shirts at Walmart, 4 pack for $10. I mean, the sales of white T-shirts at Walmart could be down this year if Nebraska goes to a bowl. Come on now. No, in all seriousness, no. Nebraska will win 7, 8 games for sure. I mean, they're going to win of the last 6, and I'm not knocking Nebraska. They just you know, USC they're 1-3, but you look at USC's 1-3 schedule in the Big Ten, and Nebraska goes to USC. That's going to be a tough game for Nebraska. Ohio State, sorry, you're not winning in Columbus,
Right.
Nebraska. There just ain't no way. If Indiana and Nebraska were playing in Lincoln, I'd probably, if I'm a betting person, I would probably pick the Huskers to win. But realistically, but here's the defense travels. So, that game, Indiana's been putting up 40 points a game. If it's 24-0 at half, then you'll know it says, well,
Right.
if it's 21 at half, it's like, well, get the popcorn out, folks. We're going to have a track meet, and I could see that game, especially, if Raiola can get things going on the offense, that could become a track meet, um, and you just don't know. I mean, Indiana's like Nebraska. You kind of, well, you think, but yeah, Nebraska will go to a bowl this year, but it's up to them. I mean, but everybody knew with their schedule, with what it is. I mean, Rutgers. Everybody thought Rutgers was pretty good, but then Rutgers the last 2 weeks is just kind of whatever. So,
Yep. Well,
I mean,
whatever bowl game Nebraska ends up at, and as you said, they only need one win the rest of the way.
yeah.
Um, that game will sell out.
Well, he.
It's been so long since Nebraska fans have been able to go to a bowl game that they'll be rabid about it.
Oh yeah. Well, here's the other thing with Nebraska too, and they got a Council's kid, and Thomas Fedon's a good kid, loved the family, but he finally, for the first time since he's been at Nebraska, has been somewhat healthy. And listen, I don't think he's a first round talent, NFL talent, and that's no knock on him, but he's playing to me like they kind of thought he would when he came out of high school, where he's this, top tight end in the country. You could tell he's put weight on. I mean, he's solid. He's making some plays. I think the knee surgeries have probably hurt his speed some, but if you've gone through two knee surgeries and wear braces, yeah, guess what? I'm going to be a little bit slower too. But, the games that I've watched, Fedoni has looked, what everybody thought 3 years ago, when everybody wanted him and he ended up going to Nebraska, so, if he stays involved and they got their playmakers, Nebraska's got playmakers. Don't misunderstand that, but but you're still dealing with the freshman quarterback, great arm, but freshman quarterback make freshman mistakes. It is what it is. A year from now, Dylan Raiola, excuse me, could be, in the Heisman conversation. I'm not going to sit there and tell you he won't be, but as a freshman, you're going to make mistakes, especially in the Big Ten. There's too many good defenses, too many good coaches. They're going to find ways to scheme, but he's getting better all the time. Even for me, I mean, his arm and his pinpoint on some of his passes is like, you're pretty good. So
Yeah, and he's just you can see the way he's built.
and listen,
And moving around out there. I mean, I can remember. This is going to take you back a few years, Travis. But if you remember Dean Oliver playing basketball for Iowa,
yeah,
I saw him play when he was in high school. He played for Mason City.
Mason City, the Mohawks.
So so I was at the state tournament, state basketball tournament when it was still at Veterans Auditorium in Des Moines.
Yep.
And he was just a man among boys. You could see him, the way he was moving around was just different than anybody else on the court. I think I see the same thing out of Raiola. And when he's moving around, he just looks different.
He does. He's got poise. And that's why I said a year from now, I mean, listen, Patrick Mahomes was not Patrick Mahomes his first couple years in college.
No.
You ask Iowa State fans, they still remember beating Texas Tech 66-10 in Ames, and Mahomes was the quarterback, and I think threw 4 picks versus Iowa State. And Iowa State fans that don't like the Chiefs, they'll remind a Texas Tech fan of that once in a while. But you look at Mahomes now, and I'm not saying he's going to be Mahomes. I know he might look like Mahomes, but yeah, he's got the 5 tools. You can see why everybody in the country wanted him. Obviously family, he's a legacy kid, and I don't care what school you are, if you're Iowa, Nebraska, Iowa State, Minnesota, whatever school, Ohio State, you get a legacy kid in like that. Kids like that are just invaluable in mine, because they've already, they're the second generation, they want to carry on what dad or uncle or whatever. Sorry. I mean, look at George Kittle. I mean, half your family played, either football or, women's basketball or whatever at Iowa. I mean, it's like, the whole family's like, they're okay. Well, he's related to George and he's related to so-and-so. It's like, holy shit, how many people in the family are there? So.
All right, we're not ending this on talking about Nebraska. So let's jump back. We got Iowa at Michigan State. Let's hear your prediction. What do you think?
I don't think Michigan State's going to score a lot of points. I mean, if I look at let me pull this back up here. Michigan State, they beat Little Sisters of the Poor 40-0. Okay, Prairie State. All right. Okay, I'll clarify. Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be very close to what the Minnesota game was. I could see a 27-17 Iowa win. That's a lot of points on the road. It's a lot of touchdowns, but I listen, I don't think they're going to stop Caleb Johnson. I think Iowa's defense is getting better. They're figuring some stuff out in the back end. It's taking them some time in the secondary. I just think with being a freshman team, although Michigan State's got a hell of a quarterback, he kind of reminds you of Antoine Randall. And every Iowa fan I ever know, I still hate Antoine Randall for some of the stuff he did versus Iowa. He was a Hawkeye killer, is what he was. So
Yeah, he was an Indiana guy.
yeah, he was an Indiana guy. They've got a kid that's a lot like him, and that's the one thing that's scary. But this is Phil Parker. This is Phil Parker too. I think they'll find a way to keep him somewhat in check. He'll probably get his yards, but I think Iowa wins this game. I could be wrong, but that would, if you had to ask me, I think there's gonna be a lot of close games. I know Michigan plays Illinois on Saturday too. That'll be a good game too. So.
Well, I was thinking about, I think I told you the joke that at the beginning of the season, that it's been so long since Iowa covered the over on the betting line, that if you were to bet $100 in the first game of the year and just roll it over every time you won, you'd have $250,000 by the end of the season if you just took the under every time. That would have been blown out of the water last week because they did not.
you know what? I think they've actually been the over every game this year.
No,
I heard.
no.
Yeah,
Really?
Yes, I'm serious. If we were talking about, let's tell me this. I was actually been the over every game this year. Think about that.
That's
where they were last year.
Yeah.
I mean,
last year they were.
They couldn't walk the ball. They couldn't run the ball. Couldn't pass the ball. Well, like I said, they couldn't do a lot of things. We had special teams and defense and Cooper DeJean, and Torrey Taylor. So we're 10-2 because of a defense and a punter and a special teams guy.
Well, I also heard a stat last week that I think it's been since 2017 since Iowa lost a game when they scored at least 24 points.
Mm-hmm.
They don't give up points.
No,
and if there has been times they've gotten blown out, but it's if it's a reasonably close game and they score 24, they're winning it.
Mm-hmm. Well, the weather should be nice this weekend. I mean, we've had a couple days of cold weather, but I think this weekend for football games, whatever, the only thing you're not going to be able to do this weekend is burn, because if you burn, you're going to burn down half of Pot County. So please don't, or the fire departments and the winds, please don't be throwing your cigarettes out on the road and burning down half of Pot County. I mean, it's so dry. Oh, it's terribly dry. So
well, I shot a couple of episodes of Campfire Conversations last night, and it was no campfire, but the conversation. I did not light a fire because
was it the Campfire Dust Bowl?
Probably would have. I was out there at the Acres and I was sitting on their stamped concrete area, and they had decorated for fall, so there were some corn stalks and dry corn leaves and stuff. And you're going to hear it on these recordings, those leaves just blowing around on the stamped concrete because it was just swirling back there. It was crazy windy.
Yeah, we need rain so bad. We're putting 2 new water lines, one into my shop and one over by my wife's chicken coop, and I'm telling you, it was digging dirt, and you get down about 3 foot. I mean, it's
still dry.
It's real dry. There's all that rain we got May and June. Oh, we got so much rain. Oh yeah, it is done evaporated. So it is dry.
Well, we have made it through another week of morning coffee, and going to be taking some time over the weekend to watch some football. But Travis, always grateful for your time and for coming on and sharing a little bit of Hawkeye expertise, and of course, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
And you have a great weekend. We'll see you again on Monday.